Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that honestly changed the game for Java developers everywhere, Spring Boot.
Okay, let me ask you this. If you've ever touched Java, this question probably hits a little too close to home, right? You've got this great idea. You want to build something amazing. But first, you're stuck in this ocean of setup files before you can write a single line of actual code. Well, that exact frustration is where our whole story begins.
You know, to really get why Spring Boot was such a lightning strike, we have to go back in time. Let's take a look at the world of enterprise Java before Spring Boot existed. And spoiler alert, it was a complex and often really frustrating place to be.
I mean, building even a simple web application felt like this monumental task. You were literally wrestling with these massive XML configuration files trying to wire everything together. You had to manually hunt down and manage every single library your project needed. And then, after all that, you had to package it all up and deploy it to an external server like Tomcat, which, by the way, you had to install and manage separately.
This slide just nails the daily struggle. Project setup was a nightmare. Developers had a name for it, dependency hell. Where one library needed a version of another library that conflicted with something else, you get the picture. You'd write mountains of boilerplate code just to get a basic server running. And all this manual work meant the feedback loop was painfully slow. It was a total productivity killer.
So clearly, something had to give. Developers needed a better way. And that's exactly what Spring Boot delivered. It came along with a philosophy so simple yet so powerful, it felt like a total revolution. Your application should just run.
And wow, this slide says it all, doesn't it? On the left, there's that long list of chores we just talked about. And on the right, you write your code and you run it. That's it. That's the promise. The whole goal of Spring Boot was to get you from an idea to a running application as fast as humanly possible.
This quote from the documentation really captures the spirit. It's all about speed. It's about prototyping. It's about getting rid of all the friction so you can get a Spring application off the ground without all the ceremony and overhead of the old days.
So, how does it pull this off? How does it just run? Well, for starters, it bundles a web server, like Tomcat, inside your application. This is huge. It means you don't need to install a server separately. Your application becomes this single, self-contained executable jar file. You just build it and run it from the command line. Everything it needs is packed right inside.
Okay, getting rid of the external server was a massive step. But what about that dependency hell we keep mentioning? Well, this is the next piece of the puzzle, and Spring Boot solves it with this absolutely brilliant concept called starters.
I absolutely love this analogy. Think of starters like those meal kits you can order. If you want to build a web application, you don't go hunting for all the individual ingredients, Spring MVC, Tomcat, a JSON library, and so on. Nope, you just grab the Spring Boot Starter Web Meal Kit, and it pulls in everything you need, all tested, and guaranteed to work together perfectly.
And this just shows how incredibly powerful that is. You declare the starter, you write a main class with one single annotation, and you run it. And just like that, you've launched a fully functional web application. The reduction in complexity is just staggering.
And when you do run it, you're greeted with this, the iconic banner in your console. For any developer who's worked with Spring, seeing this text pop up is that great moment of relief. It's the welcome sign that all the magic worked and your application is officially alive and kicking.
All right, so we've seen the what and the how, but now let's get to the real magic behind Spring Boot. How does it know what to do just by you adding a starter dependency? The answer is a little thing called auto-configuration.
This is the key question, isn't it? It feels like it's reading your mind, but I promise it's not magic. It's just a very, very clever system at work.
So here's the secret. Spring Boot scans the libraries, those starters, that you've included. If it sees Spring Boot Starter Web on its class path, it essentially says, aha, this developer wants a web app. And then it just goes ahead and automatically configures all the necessary components for you, like a web server with a bunch of sensible defaults. It makes intelligent, opinionated choices for you.
But, and this is super important, it's not a rigid system. It follows the idea of convention over configuration, but you are always in control. If you don't like a default, you just provide your own configuration, and Spring Boot gracefully backs away. And if you're ever confused about what it's doing, you can run it with a debug flag to get a complete report. So, not magic, just really smart conventions. This focus on productivity goes even deeper, right into the development loop itself. With an optional module called DevTools, Spring Boot totally changes how application restarts work. Instead of a slow, cold start, it does this incredibly clever thing with two class loaders, one for the stable libraries and another just for your active code. When you make a change, it just reloads that tiny piece of your code, making the restart lightning fast.
This basically gives you developer superpowers. Your application restarts automatically whenever you change a file. Your browser refreshes automatically. It even applies smart defaults for development, like disabling caching so you can see your UI changes immediately. It's all about making that development cycle as fast and seamless as possible.
All right, finally, let's talk about how all these amazing benefits translate from your local machine to production. Because Spring Boot isn't just about making development easier, it's built for the modern era of cloud deployment.
That self-contained executable jar we talked about? It turns out that is the perfect package for the cloud. You can wrap it in a Docker container with a simple command. There's no complex application server to configure inside the container. The application is the container's main process. It's clean, simple, and perfectly aligned with platforms like Kubernetes.
And for when you're actually running in production, Spring Boot provides the Actuator Starter. This gives you all these production-ready features right out of the box. We're talking health check endpoints, detailed application metrics, environment info, all the stuff that's essential for monitoring and managing your application at scale on any cloud platform.
So we'll end with this question. By radically simplifying the how, the plumbing, the configuration, the deployment, Spring Boot frees up developers to focus on the what. It allows you to spend your time and your energy solving unique business problems, not reinventing the wheel. And that, right there, is its most powerful legacy.